our role as an organization is trying to get youth and get participants past the barrier of the costs for travel. I mean, a flight up north alone, one way, can sometimes be over $800, $900.
All right. Well, welcome back to Scouting Stuff. You've got three of us today. I continue to be Scouter Ken, and coming at you from roughly halfway across the country, we have Kira Berger from Scouts Canada. I hope I didn't mispronounce your last name there.
Nope, you're great.
She is the Associate Director of Strategic Partnerships. And then we also have Kellen Turner from Experiences Canada, who would be one of those strategic partnerships. So hello, you two.
Hello.
All right. Before we dive in, maybe, Kira, why don't you just give us like a quick little orientation to who you are and what your involvement with Scouts Canada has been?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. So I've been with the organization now for about 5 years. I'm coming up on my 5-year anniversary in November. So when I joined the organization, I was the council relationship manager for Voyageur Council. And now in my strategic funding role, I support all of our corporate sponsorships, all of our strategic partnerships, and then also all of our grant applications that we do at the national level. And then I support volunteers as well as they're kind of going along on their fundraising journeys, anything that they kind of need to when it comes to support for fundraisers, for sponsorships, for partnerships. I'm kind of the go-to support person.
Brilliant. And how about yourself, Kellen? I guess two questions. First off, give us a little introduction to you and to Experiences Canada, but also if you have had any prior intersection with scouting or were a scout yourself, let us know.
Yeah, for sure. So, I'm Kellen. I work as a project coordinator here for Experiences Canada. We are a government-funded nonprofit that works to help kids see more of the country by taking them on reciprocal exchanges across Canada. A little bit of a background on me. I was actually a member of Scouts. I was a Cub for about 2-3 years, and then I was a Scouter for 2 years.
Nice. You see it from both sides, both as a participant and then also as a step into the leadership role, which is awesome. We always need people to do that. So, all right. Now, I like the sound of that. Reciprocal adventures, reciprocal partnerships to help kids. It's kind of like an in-country exchange program is what's coming to mind here.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is. So what we do is we partner up, whether it's, scouts groups like yours, whether it's, community organizations, school groups. Our job is to basically connect youth from across the country with the goal of kind of having them not only see more of our country, understand more of kind of what it means to be Canadian, but also just make stronger bonds across communities. We've helped kids step on a plane for the first time, step outside of their community for the first time. One of our more experienced organizers tells this great story of how one of his first trips involved taking kids on the Montreal Metro for the first time. And they lived on the island and had never actually been on the subway. And even that experience, he said, was enough to let him know that he made the right call in taking them on the trip. So we're all about helping youth kind of see things for the first time and explore the country as much as they can.
Oh, wow. So, yeah, that would be an awesome experience. Actually, it's funny. I mentioned I got my times wrong just at the outset of this. I totally forgot that we had scheduled this for 2 p.m. Eastern time, not 2 p.m. my time. And I was sweating buckets for a minute there because it was like, oh, my gosh, my kid's going to be coming back from the adventure she's been on at around that time. So it actually works out well that this is happening at noon for me. But, it's funny you mentioned the encouragement part because, my eldest, she's 16, she's in grade 12, finishing up junior high. And one thing she told me at the beginning of the year was that she really wanted to commit to doing more stuff socially within the school. The first 2 years, she just knuckled down and it was all about studying and didn't really branch out, make a lot of friends or anything like that. But grade 12, she's trying to open it up and take in more of the experience side of what her school has to offer. And they, one of the first things they do for the grade 12s every year is they do this overnight hike. It's actually 2-night overnight.
Right.
Wednesday, Thursday, three-night overnight hike. They go to a hostel down in Kananaskis, so down by Banff.
Oh, wow.
And they do like big day hikes. I guess yesterday they did like, I don't know how many kilometers it was, but it was evidently 6 different summits.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And the photos are just amazing. Like she's been texting us back pictures the whole time. So, but it took a lot of encouragement to like get her over the hump of like, yeah, you should go on this hike. And it's weird that I had to encourage her because she's a vent, she's a venturer. She started in Beavers. She's been to like, multiple large camps. We did Kandersteg a couple years ago. But it still took a lot to like, no, you should go and like go and have this experience. And like your friend is asking if you're coming along, like go. It took a lot to encourage her. So I think it's actually
that
really
kind of as well with a lot of the youth who participate. They can be the most adventurous, extroverted, like participating in every school club, play every school sport. And yet when it comes time to actually board the plane, a quote that floats around often that we hear from a lot of our organizers is their youth will sit in the chair, they'll be ready to go, and the first thing they say is, I can't believe I'm doing this.
Yeah, those trip jitters they're a universal experience, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
So, okay. So coming back to Experiences Canada. So, I mean, obviously we are working on or have worked out already a strategic partnership between, your organization and Scouts Canada. So what is the shape of that going to be? Because, again, a lot of this is kind of opaque, and I know a lot of this news hasn't kind of fully dropped for consumption by the wider scouting community. So let's dive into it. Like, what is the shape of this? How is this going to play out?
Kira, maybe I can let you start off talking about from your perspective.
Absolutely, yeah. So as part of this partnership, so this is actually the second year that we are partnering with Experiences Canada, which is exciting. And we have seen some interest from our groups across the country. So we're hoping to just kind of continue this partnership, keep it growing. So the benefit of this partnership is that we are helping to facilitate scouting sections from across the country who want to exchange. So let's say there's a section in Newfoundland, they would be potentially able to exchange with a section in BC, be able to experience what scouting is like in different parts of the country. We are also encouraging sections, if they are interested, they can also exchange with an Indigenous group. So it would give them the opportunity to experience a different culture and be able to learn a little bit from a different group that is in a different part of the country than them and has different traditions, different history. So part of the sort of benefit of this partnership is that traditionally when a group is interested in doing an exchange, they would pay a $250 application fee. So as part of our partnership, that is waived. And then the only cost that they would be looking at to take part in this exchange is each participant, whether that's a youth member or the scouter, they would pay a $250 fee, and that would be basically to cover all of their travel. So Experiences Canada is the one that would cover all of the administrative costs, program coordination, and the travel arrangements. And I know from experience of purchasing a plane ticket recently, it's quite hard to find something, to have a return ticket for $250 for somewhere across the country. So that's a wonderful offer that basically with that registration fee, all of your transportation costs, whether that's by a plane or by a train, that would be covered by Experiences Canada. And then, of course, the group would be responsible for their accommodations, their food and their meals, their local excursion. But it really is a great partnership where we're kind of removing one of the barriers, especially because we know that our groups participate in fundraising, but this is just one additional cost that is removed. But thanks to Experiences Canada, I think travel is such a huge barrier most of the time when it comes to groups traveling that they really don't have to worry about that. Kellen, I'll throw it over to you if you have anything to add on top of that.
Yeah, I think you hit all the big points. I mean, our role as an organization is trying to get youth and get participants past the barrier of the costs for travel. I mean, a flight up north alone one way can sometimes be over $800, $900. So we're really excited about not only trying to connect Scouters with groups from across the country, but we have a number of Indigenous communities that participate in our program every single year, and they're always looking for, new groups to come in and experience their culture and see what it looks like to actually participate in things with the Indigenous community. And so we were really excited at the prospect of being able to connect Scout groups with not only each other, but also the Indigenous community, like Kira touched on.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then I suppose too, like, do you kind of, whether it's a group wanting to connect with a Indigenous community or whether we're connecting Scout groups like across the country, are you also involved in like the design of, like activities, itinerary, or is that kind of on whoever the host group is to put together and figure out, or is it on the visiting group?
It's kind of a mix of, it can kind of be a mix of all three. In terms of outlining what the group does, Experiences Canada allows the two, we call them the twins, so that'll be the two groups who are participating in the exchange with one another. We allow the twin groups to kind of decide what activities they want to do. But if we were to get a group who says, hey, let's say they're based here in Ottawa where I am, and they're flying out to Victoria, and they go, we don't really know what we'd like to do. We do have resources like we have what we call our group organizer champions, who are people who have done numbers of exchanges with us over the years, who we can kind of get group organizers in touch with so that they are able to do things like plan an itinerary or, create a budget for what their costs might be while they're gone on the exchange. But in terms of, what they do, we kind of give that freedom up to the group. They can participate in whatever they'd like, as long as it does meet the requirements from Heritage Canada, our main funder, which would be things like, 20% of all the activities you do have to help groups and the participants kind of get a better idea of what it means to be Canadian, help develop their identity as Canadians, and make sure that what you're doing as groups helps you develop more of a relationship with the twin that you're with.
Awesome. So like, let's maybe walk through like the process for like, say that, a group wanted to like partner with another group. Let's kind of walk through the process, starting with like, how would they connect? Is this a case of where like Experiences Canada can be a point that would help make that connection? Or is it kind of, they make the connection externally and then they would come to you and put together a plan? Either way, like, let's walk through like start to finish what this would kind of look like for a group.
Sure. So the process for twinning through Experiences Canada is actually kind of twofold. So you have the option. You can apply to us and just say, hey, we're a Scout group based in, let's say, Toronto. We just want to go on an exchange. Here's our group size. Let's say it's 20 kids, and their age is like 14 to 16. What can you get us? Our responsibility then is to match them with someone that we have in what we call our twinning pool. So basically everybody who applies and pays their membership fee or in Scouts groups just applies. They are entered into what we call our twinning pool, which is anybody who's applied. We can see their application. We can see where they're kind of thinking of going, kind of what activities they want to do, details about their group size and their group information. And then we try and match them as best we can. So for a Scouts group, we'll go through all of our other Scouts group applications or Indigenous communities, and we'll say, okay, so you're from Toronto. You have kids who are 14 to 16. You have 20 of them. We have another Scout group in Edmonton. They have the exact same size. They're roughly the same age range. They both want to do, let's say, geography as their theme for the exchange. Great. We twin them together. The other option that we offer groups is what we call a pre-twin, which is you can come to us and say, hey, we're based in Toronto, but one of my good buddies out in, Victoria also has a Scout group, and we would be really, really interested in doing an exchange together. Then we go, okay, great. We can twin you guys up, no problem. And then you kind of take care of the rest once we get to the stage of, registering your youth or planning your itinerary and things like that. So we can either find a twin for you, or if you have somebody in mind, we're never going to say, no, we want to find you the twin. You are more than allowed to come to us and say, hey, we have somebody in mind. What can you do for us?
Awesome. And I mean, unlike sort of a traditional school tour group or like a traditional exchange student situation, I'm assuming that, we're not talking now about like a time limited engagement, right? If they wanted to, go for a week or go for a month, that would be something you'd be able to roll with either way, right?
We wouldn't be able to do something as long as a month, but we're flexible in terms of when the groups travel. So our agreement with Heritage Canada is that the exchange is at least 5 to 7 days. Typically, we don't see groups go much over a week. But what we can do is if you say, you know, oh, well, our scout group has our jamboree in December, and then the other scout group has their jamboree in, let's say, April. We would then be able to go, okay, well, you guys can travel during that time in December, and then you can host your twin in April. That's no problem.
Oh, okay. So yeah, kind of following that sort of exchange school model. And it is kind of expected, I guess, then that both twins will visit each other, right?
Yes, all exchanges done through Experiences Canada are reciprocal.
Okay. So, well, I guess maybe the most important question then for anybody listening in is, where do we go to access this? And because, like, while it's cool to hear that we're in the second year for this, we are about a week into my knowing about it. So it clearly is something that I think other groups are probably going to be just like, I did not know that was an option. And in that case, how do we access this?
So I can speak a little bit about this, and then I can throw it over to you, Kellen. So I'm glad that we are appearing on the podcast today, because hopefully that'll be one way for us to get our message out. There will be a news and events post posted on scouts.ca. And as part of that news and events post, there is a very, very detailed frequently asked questions section. So there is tons of information there in terms of questions perhaps about PRCs or questions about ratios, how to ensure that, you know, the exchanges are youth-led, any sort of restrictions, some additional information about how far in advance they should apply for their exchange. So tons of information. So I highly recommend, if anyone is interested, that they take a look at the post on the news and events page, which will have that FAQ. There will be some promotion on social media as well as some of the upcoming volunteer and parent newsletters. So we are trying to get this information out as much as we possibly can. And then when it comes to when a group is ready to apply, that would go through Experiences Canada. So there will be a link on the news and events post that will take them to the website, and then they can put in their application there. I'll let you, Kellen, kind of walk through what that application process looks like on your website.
Yeah, for sure. So once you click the actual link, you'll be brought to experiencescanada.ca/online application form. And basically, it's just going to ask you for some details surrounding your group. So in this instance, if you're a scout group, you know, you're going to want to identify yourself. That way we know when we receive your application that we're not sending you a bill for the $250 membership fee. But on top of that, it's going to ask for some basic information surrounding kind of your organization. So we want to make sure that you have all the proper approvals prior to your actual applying. And then it's going to ask for some very general kind of information surrounding the group. How many youth are you expecting to participate? How many of them are male? How many of them are female? How many chaperones do you expect to have? Age range. And then depending on what kind of exchange you're looking to do, we might get into other details such as, you know, do any of your youth self-identify, or any of your youth identified as Indigenous, you know, stuff like that. So it's basically just an overall detail surrounding who's participating, roughly how many people. Is it like a bilingual exchange? What kind of exchange are you looking for? And yeah, that's about it. It's pretty detailed. So if there's anything that for whatever reason people need clarification on, you can always shoot us an email, info@experiencescanada.ca, because I will be honest, it is a bit of paperwork. If anybody has any questions, they can always feel free to reach out to us.
Awesome. And I mean, both of you, feel free to just email me like any links that you want to see included in the show notes, because of course that is another means that we can put that all out there by. But it's good to know that there'll be like a big FAQ page about it. And I mean, these days, I think most scout groups are used to having to fill out the occasional form to go on an adventure. It's kind of become part of the strata that everything, part of the foundation of all that, a lot of what we get up to. So
I will say the nice part about all of our documentation is that basically all of it is done online. So there's no, like, we had it probably 2 years ago where we still had some of our group organizers filling out like physical sheets of paper. And then we were kind of like, why are we still doing this? It is 2024. We do not need to still be doing this. So luckily, if anyone's concerned, everything can be done online.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so yeah, I guess the only other question I really have, because we've covered, I think, a lot of the what and the how, but I guess maybe the only question I have, at least in my mind, and maybe I should have led with this, is like what led to this partnership in the first place? Because it sounds like it's kind of been a bit of an ongoing thing. So how did this all come about?
So it was actually Experiences Canada that approached us, and I think there is a lot of synergy between our organizations, whether that's fostering personal growth, building self-confidence, building lifelong friendships. And one of the barriers that we know that so many of our groups have when it comes to travel is the cost. Unfortunately, it's not like Europe where you can buy an airplane ticket for under $100. It's a very large country that we live in, and costs are quite high when it comes to travel. So this was just such a great way for us to offer our youth members the ability to travel across the country, to build connections with youth that either have similar interests but do scouting a little different in their part of Canada, or to be able to connect with an Indigenous group and be able to learn about their culture. So the partnership really does offer youth a unique, impactful experience that supports their personal and their social development. So we saw it as such a no-brainer partnership, that there's so much synergy between our organizations, and there are so many benefits for our groups. So we're very excited that this is a continuing partnership, that this is our second year now. We have seen some groups that have expressed interest that want to be able to participate in this. So there has been some, I'm not quite sure if there's been exchanges that have happened yet, but there at least has been some interest. And so we're hoping to see, a ton of groups participate this year. We'd love to see photos, and we'd love to hear the stories of youth that actually participate in this and what their experience is like.
Actually, I just thought of another important question, since we are talking about Scouts here. If a group does go on one of these exchanges, is there a badge?
Ooh, you know what? That has not come up, and I'm quite disappointed that it hasn't yet, because there absolutely should be and there will be. So let me make note of that. And yeah, so Kellen and I will take that offline, and there absolutely will be a badge for this. No problem.
Oh, well, sorry, I didn't mean to turn that into like a gotcha moment there, but
no.
Yeah, it's like I'm always thinking about the campfire blanket, so.
Totally fair.
Cool. Well, be a bit of a shorter episode, but that's all right. But I don't have any more questions, but usually when I do these interviews, I just like to turn the floor over in case there's anything that like you really wanted to communicate out there that I didn't get to, anything that we missed.
I think I have one thing, which would be like the why, as to why I think it's really important. Not only this partnership, but kind of why like Scouters should participate. And this is kind of where my experience as a Scouter kind of comes in. Because when I was in Scouts, I was, one of the youth that didn't get to go to a lot of the big gatherings, like whether it was a jamboree or whether it was, winter camp or stuff like that, because I just couldn't afford to make the trips. I have been to like Camp Opamikon. I've been to a lot of the kind of nearby camps, and I always had a great time. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I got so excited when this partnership came about, is because I think that, as someone who, when I was a youth, didn't really get to travel much, the experiences I had with Scouts were kind of my first time leaving the city. It was the first time leaving my community. Living in Ottawa, it's not always easy to kind of get out of the bubble of the city. So I thought it was like very impactful for me as someone who is, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, to be traveling with Scouts and going to these camps and seeing what it's like to, cook with all your fellow Scouters, or set up a tent in the middle of winter, or, have those experiences. And that's kind of what I think is the best part about our partnership, is that now we're going to be able to get Scouters who maybe were like me and didn't get to go to every single camp or every single activity, who can go from, say, Ottawa to Vancouver, or Ottawa to an Indigenous community in northern Quebec, and really not only experience things things with their fellow Scouters, but actually kind of see more of Canada in a way that they wouldn't have had the opportunity to before. And that's kind of what I think is the best part about our partnership.
Yeah, I mean, you always want for those experiences for the youth, obviously. And like I can remember, I don't think I went to a jamboree until I was in Venturers, right? Like it was a long, long time. I'd already been in Scouts. I started at 5, so 14, 15, I think, when I first went to a jamboree. It was a fairly long time. So yeah, if this is a means that we can get the youth to have those out of city, out of province experiences, which are just fantastic adventures anytime they happen, that's absolutely amazing and definitely something we should encourage. But you kept using the word Scouters there, and it almost got me thinking that I wonder if maybe there's, and I don't know if this would be appropriate to the program, but I had in the back of my mind this thought that it's like, this might not be a bad opportunity for Scouters, for the adult volunteers to find ways to connect. And like I said, I don't know if that would be appropriate or if that would fit within the parameters of what the program is for. But if it was a case of we're like a group of Scouters from, say, Ottawa wanted to come out and do like wilderness first aid training or range master training and, work alongside, say, Scouters here in Alberta, and have, a big like week-long meet and greet and train. Is that something that would fall under the banner of this program, or are we talking about something different at that point?
In terms of the actual like program for the exchange, we are youth only, but it's funny that you mentioned that because we found that one of the strangest takeaways a lot of our organizers were getting from the program was not actually like a community with their other organizers. We asked a number of people who have done like quite a few exchanges with us the question of, do you connect like with your previous twins? How often do you get in touch maybe with one of the other group organizers who, you work months and months together to make these kind of things happen? And we were very surprised at the number who said, well, I would love to, but we never really kept contact. And so while we don't have a means, because we're a youth program, of actually flying people out and getting them in touch in person, we do have a number of resources now to try and promote organizers staying in touch and trying to get together. We have a Facebook group, which is brand new for this year, where only organizers can actually participate. We've had a number of groups from that Facebook page, reach out to us and say, oh, this is great. Like, I hadn't spoken to Greg in 13 years since our last exchange. Or, we'll have groups who say, we found one of our old twins through your Facebook group and we're going on another exchange together this year. So we have awesome. That. And we have our group organizer champions program is something we do with more experienced organizers who can join this group of experienced GOs who have done a lot of exchanges that meet with actually myself every quarter, about once or twice every quarter. And we talk about, what we can do for the program, if there's anything we should know about kind of the direction that education or youth programming is going and how we can kind of best develop the program. And a lot of GOs do participate in it. So we're always looking for more. And those are kind of the resources that I've been trying to develop alongside with Experiences Canada to keep group organizers not only in touch, but actually engaging with one another.
Oh, that's so great. I have a tradition. I mean, I don't travel for work too much anymore, but this is it's funny because like this program speaks to me on like a fundamental level because I don't travel for work too much anymore, but everywhere I go, when I do have to travel, I like try and reach out and connect with a scout group in the area.
Right.
Which I mean has just, led to some absolutely amazing experiences over the years. And I've got to go to Saudi Arabia actually next week. So I'm just trying to connect with the Scout Association there and see if there's a group in the area that I'll be going to. So we'll see. But yeah, like these are fantastic opportunities, and it's awesome to be able to explore the country and meet other groups. And it's especially to meet, like when you're in scouting, sometimes, and you kind of talked about this a little bit, discussing your own experience, but sometimes when you're in scouting, you kind of feel like, because the organization doesn't have the prominence that it once did, you can kind of feel like a little bit alone. Alone might not be the right word, but you can kind of feel like it's a thing that like you do with the same 10 to 15 people, but then you don't really have a sense of like it being a thing that happens anywhere else. Right. And it's really, really edifying to be able to go to these situations or to go into these other places and meet other people who do scouting the same as you. And it's like, oh, okay, this is a thing.
Yeah, exactly. And that was the first thing I thought of, is that Ottawa, in fact, me and Kira were just talking about this before we started recording. Ottawa is so heavy for scouts. Like, I remember when I was in scouts that we had probably every block on Apple Day had at least one or two groups of, whether it was the Cubs or the Beavers, trying to sell apples, because it's so prominent here. But then when I was talking to a friend of mine who lives out in Calgary, she was saying, oh, I think we have like one or two scouts groups. And that was like mind boggling to me, because there's so many here in Ottawa. And that's kind of what I would love to see this program help develop, is a stronger sense of, where scouts are, how connected all the groups can be, and how much you can explore the country, through our program, or even just through being a scout.
Yeah, actually, that leads me to one more question. And I mean, I know obviously like the whole focus of what we've been talking about is, actually like groups physically going to each other, but in and around that, or maybe ahead of that, or maybe as a side offering to that, like, are you also set up to just start to like broker even virtual connections between groups? Because I mean, saving up for a trip is obviously what we want everybody to put their mind and their group finances toward. I definitely don't want to sound like I'm in any way trying to downplay or discourage that part of it, but it can take a while to do all of that. It can take a while to build up that pool of funds to actually make the trip a reality. And in the meantime, like, is Experiences Canada a resource for fostering virtual connections between groups in the run up to, or in advance of, or like I say, maybe even as not necessarily an alternative to, but as like well, for now we'll do it this way. And then if we can get to the point where we're both ready to do it in person, we'll do it that way.
It's funny you mentioned that, because we used to do virtual exchanges during the pandemic, because it was the only way, as you mentioned, that a lot of groups could get their youth to, actually see other youth, let alone, with youth across the country. We don't offer the virtual exchanges anymore, but what we do is we work with the group organizers to try our best to get the youth as early as possible actually connecting with one another. Nowadays, I know a lot of young, whether they're students or scouters, they use a lot of Snapchat, I believe. We've had group organizers.
Discord.
Yeah, we've had a lot of group organizers start like Snapchat groups that they invite the other kids to and say like, hey, here's your twin, get to talking. In terms of like just a virtual presence, we only have resources at this time. But we do try our best to work with the groups to not only get them twinned as soon as possible, but get their youth actually in pairs and connecting and talking to one another as quick as we can.
Cool. Well, that's good, right? Because it's important to really build those connections and ahead of time. And I mean, hopefully by the time that everybody's kind of got all their funds in order and all their plane tickets booked, most everybody who's been a part of those initial exchanges is still involved and still looking forward to receiving guests.
Yeah, exactly.
I know our membership kind of fluctuates a little bit, but it is right what you say. Like, well, I mean, my group's kind of an aberration in the stats. I think last year we were like the 5th largest group in Canada.
Oh my gosh!
But that's really just because we've absorbed a lot of other groups that have folded.
Right.
And it's great that the 59th is doing as well as it is, but at some level, it is kind of a shame that, there's not still a Lansdowne group, an Aspen Gardens group, a Duggan group. These are all the communities in and around Greenfield, which is our home base in Edmonton. And at one point, there were easily half a dozen scout groups in all of the communities surrounding Greenfield. And now there's just us. And it's not great.
There's this saying that we hear a lot from people who who sign up for our program the first time. And I think the exact same reaction happens probably with a lot of parents who learn and find out about Scouts. A lot of times when people hear about our program for the first time and they hear us say the words, well, we cover the travel, the first thing they say is, oh my God, how have I not heard about this until now? And I think that's kind of the same thing with Scouts. Like if I was a parent and I heard, hey, we can get your child engaged with other kids in their community, they're going to participate in community, help, like they're going to help people in their community, they're going to get engaged in their local community, they're going to get to travel and meet other kids who do this, they're going to get to, for me, a big allure for Scouts was I got to go out and see nature. Like the first time I ever fished was during a scouting trip. The first time I rode a kayak was during a scouting trip. If I was a parent, I would hear that and go, oh my God, how have I not signed my kid up for this already? And so I think that that's one of the biggest pieces to this partnership, is that there's so much opportunity here for young people to get involved in ways that they wouldn't have the opportunities to otherwise. And I would love to know that Experiences Canada, as someone who used to be in Scouts, played a part in helping Scouts get back out there and get more people involved to the same level that it used to.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, and I mean, especially when you talk about like offsetting travel costs, like that's huge.
Find me a flight in Canada right now that's cheaper than $500, and I won't believe you.
I mean, sometimes I can get a seat sail to Vancouver for like $79 or $139, but
I'm going to pretend like I didn't hear that.
Well, that's more of one of those, you have to log on to the WestJet site within like a very specific 8-hour window.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a luck of the draw. And yeah, so, okay, well, geez, that's awesome. So yeah, again, I guess just any links to information that I should be including in the show notes or to the application form would probably be good too. Just drop them into my inbox and I will make sure that they end up in the show notes. I'll try get this episode released by mid next week. Recording this on the 19th, so I guess that puts it at the 24th, because after that I am on a plane and quite a few time zones away from here. So, and yeah, thank you both. Thank you, Kira. Thank you, Kellen. And thank you out
Ken.
there. Yeah, thank you out there for listening. And until next time, be prepared.
Life.